Dubas has made clear on more than one occasion, and publicly so, that he wasn't pleased with Erik Karlsson's overall performance this past season. Well, as I've shared with you previously, and will reiterate today, the same was kind of true in the reverse. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Don't misunderstand this. And yes, I'm going to explain the last remark for anybody who hasn't heard it previously. It's not that Karlsson was unhappy in Pittsburgh, and certainly not that he was unhappy with his teammates. It's just a tremendous teammate. Or even, with his general usage, with how Mike Sullivan applied him, with being taken off the top power play in favor of Matt Grzelcyk, who now they don't even feel is worth keeping as a cheap, unrestricted free agent. It wasn't any of that stuff. It wasn't any of that stuff. Karlsson is, and I think even his most ardent critics would agree with me on this count, a special offensive talent, an extraordinary offensive talent, a likely Hall of Fame offensive talent once his career's all done and all of his various point totals and awards are added up. As such, and going back to his childhood in Sweden, he has been a guy who has had a team arranged to meet his skill set. If you've been with me for a while, you might even recall that when Karlsson was acquired from the Sharks, I said, and specifically so, that the Penguins were going to have to adjust to Karlsson, not the other way around. He has one way to play the game, and I'm only talking about offense here, by the way. He has one way that he has produced points. He had one way in which he produced all 101 of those points in winning the Norris Trophy for the Sharks in the very season before he got here. And that is to have a whole bunch of willing and receptive blades hanging around the opposing crease or thereabouts. So he came to Pittsburgh. They didn't have any of those players, not anymore. Patrick Hornqvist was long gone. And more often than not, he was matched on the rink with guys who were offensive players themselves or historically spectacular offensive players like, Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. And on the power play, what Karlsson did best wasn't going to be a fit because I'll say it again, those guys weren't about to go to the front. The redirects, the tips, the rebounds, the bank off, the end boards, none of that stuff was going to be in play. And yet this is the stuff that he'd been doing with the terrible Sharks because all he ever needed and all he's needed in life is to have a bunch of pluggers go to the net and just kind of set themselves up like fire hydrants for him to just bank shots off of. I'm not going to go into detail, but he and I had many, many, many conversations about his frustration in this regard. And even when things started to get better in that sense, and you know what I'm talking about because you will recall when he and Sid started vibing out there, and Sid, of all people, started putting himself into those positions for those redirects and for those alley-oops off to the side of the net. Even when that stuff started becoming better, Karlsson had other things to get frustrated about. This past season, he obviously started out on the shelf. I should say he should have started out on the shelf because he was hurt all through training camp. The Penguins put him out there for the opener. That didn't go well at all. And neither did really the first 20 games of his season. He felt like there was a really high hill to climb after that. He got closer to the Four Nations. There's noise coming out of Sweden about how he doesn't even belong on that team. He immensely elevates his game, which, by the way, further frustrated Dubas. Then he gets into the Four Nations, and he's just the old Erik Karlsson again, like Ottawa-level Karlsson, further frustrating Dubas. I'm not guessing at this. And some other stuff was said, and I'm not going to get into too much here, okay? He'd be fine with going somewhere else. And the Penguins, specifically Dubas, would be fine with him going somewhere else. But what does that look like? You've seen his contract. He's got 2 more seasons at an $11.5 million average annual value cap hit before he can become an unrestricted free agent. That'll be at age 37. There are some expensive contracts that can be traded. There are some that, well, they can be traded, but they have to be traded for almost identical contracts. There are very, very, very few teams in the NHL with the cap space, never mind the will, to bring in a defenseman in his mid-30s while eating up about 1/8 of their team's cap. So if something does occur related to Karlsson, and I actually believe that it could, if only because both sides want it, it's almost certain to be one of those, I'll trade you my bad contract for your bad contract kind of deals. You want to go back a little bit, just a little bit in franchise history. You can, Tanner Pearson coming here from Vancouver in 2019 in exchange for Erik Goodbranson. I thought Goodbranson was actually a pretty nice fit here, and he certainly outperformed the analytical expectations in that process. But he was being paid a lot. Management wanted him to go. He went, and Pearson came in return. It's that kind of thing. So is there somebody out there anywhere employed by any of the other 31 NHL teams who's making an 8-figure AAV and is some kind of perceived or real albatross on either their cap or their roster or both, really? I don't have that answer. If Dubas does, my guess is that he's going to pursue it, presuming he hasn't been already. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. And today's J1Q comes from John, who says, DK, is anybody peeking ahead to the 2026-27 NHL season and noticing that the Penguins will have the 5th most cap space, according to SpotTrack, at over $50 million. At over $50 million. So in that case, I say, why not keep Brian Rust and Ricard Raquel, then pursue, I don't mean to laugh, but I'm laughing, Conor McDavid to take over the number 1 center spot and slide Sidney Crosby to number 2 center. We could sign McDavid to any number he wants and have him become the heir to Mario and Sid. This would pack the arena every night. Yes, it definitely would, John. Furthermore, we still have ample cap space to add around that move. Am I nuts or am I just daring to dream? My dude, I will take option B just to be nice to you. McDavid is not going to go into unrestricted free agency. The Oilers have been badly run for a really long time, although that's obviously improved over the past couple of seasons for them to reach the Stanley Cup final both times, although they went into both of those without a goaltender, so it's not like they've figured it all out yet. But even they aren't misguided enough to just let McDavid waltz away for nothing. Now, I say this, and I don't do so in any sort of dismissive tone as it relates to the control, the very real control that McDavid now has over his own scenario. He is eligible to be an unrestricted free agent after the coming season. Stan Bowman, the general manager in Edmonton, immediately and publicly stated that the Oilers are sitting there waiting to sign an extension with him any day he's ready to do that. He, McDavid, hasn't done that. He and his agent have yet to engage in any talks regarding any extension. And in fact, Bowman's description of any conversations that have happened between McDavid and the Oilers has been that they've just been talking about ways to improve the team. So all we've seen so far from the Oilers this offseason, not that I want to turn this into an Edmonton show, is that they've had to make some cap-cutting moves. So far, most prominently, they've lost Evander Kane, Corey Perry, who was a big part of that team, and a couple of other veterans who were really bit players for them, although not always. Victor Arvidsson, who had a pretty nice playoff, and John Klingberg, who's just kind of clinging to his NHL career at this point. But I'm here to tell you that between the handshake line in Sunrise and this program right now, the Oilers are a worse team than they were. So unless they're cutting these costs for the purpose of finally adding an NHL-level goaltender to their roster, I'm not sure what else they can do. I'm not sure what they would be able to use to sell to McDavid. Hey, we're your best hope. Even just for the coming season, we're your best hope for winning a cup. I've got terrible timing for bringing this up now, but I don't think it's all that likely that the Oilers would make it to the Western Final 3 years in a row. Now, the reason for my terrible timing is that the Stars actually have done that, and of course, the Panthers have done that in the East. But my point through the course of history stands. The Stars, just taking one example from that side of the bracket, have Jake Ottinger. The Golden Knights, the Jets, the Avalanche, they're all going to be back too. Look, I don't know what he's going to do. I do know that I can't bring myself to seriously discuss McDavid coming and signing in Pittsburgh. If you want to have fun with that, go nuts. McDavid's 28 years old. He'll be 29 in the next playoffs. He's getting close to his age 30 season, obviously. That doesn't mean that he'll never win a cup after a certain age, but your chances diminish with each passing year. For that matter, Leon Draisaitl is 29, so they're kind of getting into a shared space there. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow.